Hi, everybody. It's 12 o'clock. It's artist visa lawyer and entertainment lawyer Electra Yao, and I'm here to break it down for you in a very, very simple way. I want to talk about how to apply for the artist visa or the O1 visa. And I know a lot of the times I break down the different federal regulations and requirements, but I think that it's really important to just go over the different components of the visa so that you have a better idea of whether or not this fits for you, whether or not this is something that you want to pursue, or whether or not this is something that will fit within your long term goals. So I would say the first step is really to do your own research. You want to kind of just see what the ABCs of the visa options are. Like you want to check out, the J1 or the H1B or the O1 or the L1, whatever visa you're just curious about. I would say just do a quick Google search. Don't go overboard because Google will give you lots of different information that can be very confusing. But you also just want to have that sort of personal knowledge so that once you do go in for a consultation or a strategy session with an attorney, you have a little bit of room to discuss something. So the first step is do your research, right? Just Google artist visa, Google artist visa in your profession. So let's say, for example, you are a marketing specialist or an architect. These are certain professions that maybe other attorneys wouldn't classify as artistic or creative, but I do. So do your research, write down your questions, and move on to the next step, which is to actually go in and speak to an attorney who knows a little bit about the arts and who knows about the O1 so that you can have an intellectual discussion about your future. I will say this and I will continue to say, do not go to a non-attorney, do not go to a notario, do not go to people who say they can help you because they did it on their own. I mean, this is your life. It's high stakes. You want to be responsible and make the right decision for yourself. So step one, do your Google search. Step two, meet with a licensed attorney to discuss your options and whether or not you qualify. So in the event you do qualify and you want to pursue the O1, that's when you have to kind of start hitting the ground running, right? So you need to have a couple of elements to make your case successful. So the first thing that you need to identify and that you need to secure is you need to secure a petitioner or a sponsor. And your petitioner slash sponsor, really, that selection is really important because you want to make sure that it's aligned with your future goals. If you are just interested in working for one company, then you're just going to have a straight employer petitioner. If you want to work for different companies, then you're going to be filing your case with an agent petitioner. So the first thing you want to do once you start actually working on your O1 is securing your petitioner. After you've secured your petitioner, you want to start to gather your contracts because remember, this is not a volunteer visa. You're not just here because, you're hanging out in the art scene. No, the government wants to see that you're working, that you actually have projects in your pipeline so that, you're not unemployed, you don't have gaps in your itinerary. So you need to seek that out. And I always at least tell my clients, you want to really focus on the employment because if you can have a perfect petition, you can have a great portfolio, but if you don't have future work lined up for your O1 validity period, then you're stuck. Your case cannot be filed because future work is a necessary, vital component of the O1. So once you start working on your case, once you've secured your petitioner, you want to start to secure your future employment. And that's something that you will, discuss with whoever is helping you work on your case. After you've secured your future employment, now it's time to seek out and secure the experts that will be signing your testimonial letters. So again, there's no law that says you need 8 or you need 10 or you need 5. It's really based on the strategy of your case. But let's say for the sake of conversation, you've gotten 5 people who are willing to sign your letters. Well, you need to draft them or the attorney needs to draft them, and then you need to verify for factual accuracy. Your signers need to verify for factual accuracy, and you need to get these letters signed. So again, we spoke about your petitioner, we spoke about your future contracts, which is so important. Now we're talking about your testimonials. Now let's talk about your portfolio, which is basically the heart, the meat, the most vital component of your petition. That is your actual artistic work. So your portfolio is not going to be, I know I work with tons of designers. The portfolio that you submit in the real world is really not what we're looking for your O1. We're looking for very detailed information that has an arc, right? That tells your story, the beginning, middle, and end. So all the details that might not seem important to you as the artist are very, very important to the attorney and to the officer that's reviewing your petition. So basically, while these letters are being drafted, you really should be actively working on creating that ensemble of documents, which is basically your portfolio that tells the story of your artistry and your artistic career. So your petitioner, your future employment, your testimonial letters, your portfolio. And let's get to the immigration form. So the immigration forms need to be filled out because that is the actual technical requirement. Everything else is just documentary support. So the immigration forms are quite important. So you need to decide if you're going to file premium processing, if you're going to not file premium processing. As I have told everybody, October 2nd, that's when the fees are rising. So you want to make sure that you're strategic about when you're going to file your case. So we got a question. Hi, Electra, do I need to be featured in a newspaper or win rewards in my country to have that visa? So no, you don't need to win an award. Do you need to be featured in a newspaper? Well, the law says that you need to be featured in either trade magazines, publications, printed media, any sort of media. So actually, prior to this administration, if you had an article that discussed a project that you were working in, so let's say, for example, you performed in Evita, right? And Broadway World wrote an article just about Evita and talked about how great the production is, but didn't name you. Prior to this administration, that would have been absolutely sufficient. Under this current administration, where the scrutiny is extremely high, you really should focus on gathering and securing additional press. And this is not only for the O1, this is, again, for your career. And if you guys are listening to my creative career advice, all the press that you're getting is what should be included in your electronic press kit, right? Your electronic press kit is not a substitution to your real world portfolio or your headshot and resume, but it is an ensemble of information that really positions you as somebody who is, number one, an expert, and number two, extremely talented. So in answer your question, it's not a hard no. You don't necessarily need to be featured in a newspaper, but you definitely want to secure additional press. And you don't need awards. I work with many, many people who don't have any sort of awards. Is it helpful for your case? Absolutely, but it is not necessary. So before we got that question, I was talking about the immigration form. So the immigration forms, it's Form I-129. It's the G-28 if you're being represented by counsel, and it's Form I-907 if you're going to file your case premium processing. Remember, October 2nd, the fees are going up, so if you're working on your case and maybe money is tight, you might want to think about filing before that October 2nd filing date. And that's your O1 petition. It's your immigration forms, it's your portfolio, it's your agent information, which is memorialized in an agent agreement, and it's your future work. And that's how you craft a O1 petition. You need to know all of this. I strongly think you need to know all of this when you're working on your case so that you can collaborate actively with your attorney and so that you can really understand the process. Remember, the O1 is highly abstract and conceptual, very, very different from other straight business visas like an L1, for example, or an H1B, where the evidentiary requirement for an H1B is very small, whereas an O1, I'm filing cases that are, over 1,000 pages sometimes. So it was a lot of information, but the step-by-steps for the O1 is, number one, do your homework, do a quick Google search, put O1 visa and your profession. So if you are a UX designer, do O1 visa and UX designer. Just do your research. Second step is find an attorney that is licensed and that has experience working with artists and creative professionals. After you've selected your attorney, then again, you're hitting the ground running, at least when you work with my firm, and you start to gather the contents of your petition, which are the immigration forms, your portfolio, the signers, your future employment, the labor union letters, which I didn't talk about, but I'll just roughly discuss now. This is a technical requirement of your petition. You have to include these letters from labor unions. If there is no labor union, for example, like models, they don't have a labor union, then you need to get a peer advisory letter, which is basically a very long testimonial letter. My peer advisory letters tend to be 8 pages, but these are letters that are a requirement. So these are the different components of the O1. This is why they're very labor intensive and very highbrow compared to other types of visas. So I hope that this was helpful. If you take anything from this video, I really want you to remember the most important steps. And the most important steps are that initial Google search. And like I said, you don't want to go overboard, but you do want to be empowered and informed so that once you do go in for your consultation, you're asking the right questions. A lot of the times when I do consultations, clients or potential clients are not asking the right questions that will allow them to make the correct decision in terms of whether or not they should apply for the O1. So again, once you have a little bit of knowledge and background, you can make that first step. And again, the portfolio is quite important. You really need to understand that the portfolio you present in the real world is not the same as the portfolio that you're going to be presenting for USCIS. So once you wrap your head around that, once you wrap your head around the fact that, you know, the O1 world is its own world. I mean, we do things in the O1 world very differently than the real world. Our letters of recommendation do not mirror real world letters of recommendation at all. So sometimes when you're working with people who are supposed to sign your letters who maybe have never worked with an international artist, they are very shocked to see the language that's being used or the length of these letters or the amount of detail that goes into describing a project. So it's very important that once you have decided that the O1 is for you, that you are empowered with this information, but you also utilize this information to educate the different players in the O1 world. So the signers, the employers, the agents. Once you're armed with this information, it just makes the process that much smoother because again, with the O1, it's not just you and the attorney, it's you, the attorney, the labor union, the signers, the employers, the agents. There are all these different people who are necessary to make that cake successful, right? Like a great cake has frosting and eggs and butter and whatever it has. But you need all of those different components, all of those different elements to make sure that that cake is tasty. And it's the same thing with the O1. You need all of those different players to make sure that your case is crafted in a smooth way. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it gave you, for those who are not familiar with the process, a little bit more background information on what are the best practices for beginning your O1 journey. Obviously, everyone's journey is different. All cases are different. So you want to also not fall into the habit of saying, well, my friend did this or my friend didn't do this, because every case is different, as you'll see. So I will be back today at 2:30. We're going to discuss how to protect an idea if someone tells your idea to a third party. This is actually really important for you guys who are always brainstorming and experimenting, as you should be, with your career and with your ideas and with your artistry and your art. But you also want to be empowered and have the legal structures in place so that you can protect your ideas, which are in your head, and so that you can protect the work, the actuation of the work that you put out into the real world. So I'll see you guys at 2:30. But remember, whatever you do in terms of the O1, just make sure that you're armed with information. So that initial Google search is quite important. It will condition the entire tone of your O1 journey. So I will see you later today at 2:30. Bye, everybody.